So, hi, and this is episode 3 of Person to Person with Norton Armouries. So, I'm really excited about this episode. We've been planning this for a couple of weeks, and we are here with the amazing Hannah. So, I just wanted to start by asking, could you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, your role, and your journey to working with Norton Armouries.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So my name's Hannah. I have been with Norton about 2 years now. It's gone very quickly. I've got a bit of a strange role in that I spin a lot of plates at the same time. So I was brought in to run the hire side of the business. We'd never had anyone here to solely run hiring out our armour. So we've got thousands of pieces in a big warehouse, which I came in and tried to catalogue and create, proper images of everything so that people could see them on our website, and basically run that side of the business. Since then, my role has kind of evolved. So I do a lot of client liaison. So I speak with most of the production companies, costume designers. I actually am very fortunate to be able to have a lot of input with some of the designs that we can kind of execute. And so I generally help run the business, but also excitingly now I get to have kind of input and more to do with the design side.
That's really cool. And I'd love to hear more about that, like communicating with production companies and costume designers. How do you, one, keep track of so many different projects? And how do you all work together on the team, from the initial concept to designing the armor and things?
Yeah, so we just to give you a bit of background first of all, because this will probably make a little bit more sense when I start talking about some of our other projects and things as we move along. But with our business, we're very fortunate to provide many different services in regard to armour for our productions. So some productions we will hire them our existing armour that is there ready to go. Some productions we will help with from the design stage. We will, and we'll go into that later, but we will help with the full design of the armour. And some people, we are lucky enough, they send us their glorious moulds and we cast from their moulds to provide them with kind of stunt sets or hero sets. And so it depends really on how they come to us and what they need. So some productions will want completely bespoke. Some productions will be happy with our pieces. So we tend to start the ball rolling with those questions. But in terms of how the film industry works, and I can only say this from Norton's kind of point of view,
Yeah,
it is a bit old school in that it's certainly word of mouth. You get a reputation, you have to withhold that reputation. We're very fortunate that in terms of kind of medieval armour, we do provide high quality. So that gets passed along, and somebody that might work on one project might then get called in for another project. So that tends to, word of mouth is a very
yeah.
useful tool for us.
That's really interesting because I don't know.
Yeah.
I think when you think like film industry and Hollywood and all of that, I think you always imagine that it's a lot more like, you know,
Yeah.
than it actually probably is.
Yeah, and the thing is as well is one thing that surprised me when dealing with our clients is that sometimes you are dealing with that costume designer, you are dealing with the top, and
Mhm.
it's not always, there's levels in between you. Sometimes there is, obviously large productions, there may be more of a disparity between the top and in between us and getting the
Yeah,
designs from there. But usually it's, we've dealt with some amazing costume artists, I would call them,
yeah,
because
for
they
sure.
literally are incredible. And I'll talk a little bit more about one of them later. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's very much a kind of old school way of doing things. Obviously, there is promotion. We are in things like Kay's Diary and things like that, which is very
yeah.
instrumental for this industry, and people get to know each other through that. But yeah, it's mainly word of mouth, I'd say, for us.
That's so interesting. And on your job specifically, what would you say is the best or most rewarding part of what you do of your job?
Oh God, well, I mean, I would say actually I'm very fortunate as well as one of my many plates that I'm spinning. When we have big deadlines and things, I help with hand painting. So if we've got detailing, so
Mhm.
Viking shields, kind of intricate two-tone armor, things like that. So when you're painting something or even patinating, so providing the finish to our armor, even helping with that, then seeing the trailer come out and you're like,
Yeah.
did that? Like
And do you
that.
have a plan for like, so this isn't one of the questions, but like if you're making a Viking shield, for example, do you know before you start painting what colours that you want it and that sort of thing?
Yes. So for we've got a couple of instances in the last couple of years that the project hasn't come out yet, so I can't say anything about it.
Yeah.
But they they provided us with some amazing designs. So, and they are very specific with colorings and things. So we color match every color. Everything is
Wow.
then hand painted twice. So we have to go over everything. So because obviously with our Viking shields, they are polyurethane. But they also are very durable and they are used for
Yeah.
stunt painting. So we want to make sure that the paint's just as durable. So we paint them all the detailing twice. And so that's really lovely. Obviously, when we have free reign ourselves, we just pick the colours off the shelf and go, do
Yeah.
you know what, that'd be really cool. But when you work into someone else's design, it's really important for us to get it spot on.
And that kind of leads very well into the next question, which is could you basically explain how armor itself is made from start to finish? Because I really am, you know, I've taught you about this, but I studied history and I'm really passionate about all of this. But I couldn't tell you the individual parts of the armor and how it's made. So I'd love you to speak to that if you can.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So obviously we're a little bit different because we're not making it from metal. So we've there's a couple of different ways that we can do it now. Our traditional way of making armor was to create each piece out of a kind of clay starting point. So everything would be hand sculpted within the clay to the shape that we needed it to be. So such as like a pauldron that sits on your shoulder. Say it had lames across the bottom.
Yeah.
Each one would have a completely separate clay finishing
Wow.
point. So John, our owner, who's kind of took the business over in, I think it was 2009, that was his kind of his expertise. So he
Yeah.
would literally do the most fine detail onto this clay. This would then get molded, so silicone molded. And then we would create a cast from that. So we use a 2-part polyurethane, which is very, very hot and it
Yeah.
adheres into the mold. We take that from the mold. So this is the same for each piece. We take that from the mold. We would cut away the flashing on the edge, so any extras, sand everything clean. Everything gets shot blasted so that it provides like the really smooth finish. And then we apply our paint mixtures and our patinating mixtures. So our patinating fluid is, and the way that we create our steel look, if you will, is a mixture of household items. I won't disclose what they are, but they create that kind of not high shine steel
Yeah.
finish, something that is better on camera. So that's one of our main reasons, is that it doesn't provide the glare. If you look at brand new aluminium, which is what people would produce, or steel, kind of originals, if they were that high shine, the glare on film would not work. So
Yeah.
hence why our finishes are slightly duller, because it shows up more like steel on camera then. In terms of armor itself, I mean, do you want me to talk you through kind of head
Yeah.
to toe?
That would
Yeah,
be amazing.
no problem. Well, I think probably the easiest way to kind of go around it is how we would tend to dress somebody in the armor.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah, so obviously you would start with your soft costume, or what we would call soft costume underneath. So you might have a tie-up gambeson, you
Yeah.
might have some medieval trousers, that kind of thing. The first thing we would do is make sure that somebody has a belt around their waist. Now this helps with fitting of the legs.
Yeah.
So each upper leg would be bound around your upper leg with leather strapping, and then the thonging would go from the top of the leg to the belt, so
Yeah.
that you've got full range of movement, but you've still got a lot of kind of anchoring points.
make it so that you can move. That's so interesting.
Yeah. So obviously you've got your different lanes that all sit within each
Yeah,
other, to enable your knee to move, that kind of thing. You've obviously got your lower section of your leg, so that would be
yeah,
your greave, sort of greaves, and you could have full wraparound ones, so they cover the full lower leg, or you could just have fronts. Obviously, those come in lots of different designs as well. You know, they could be completely plain, or they could be very intricate. It just depends on that kind of era of suit.
yeah,
You've got your sabatons, which cover your feet. So you would wear footwear underneath, so like a medieval boot, something with a very thin kind of sole to it. And these are articulated as well, so they allow the foot to move as
yeah,
you're walking. And that would be your kind of armoured covering for your feet. Your upper, you would then obviously, once you've got all your lower bits on, you obviously have to have a squire. Even with
yeah.
polyurethane armour, you need a squire, because bending down and trying to do all that yourself
I'm
is
now
quite tricky.
seeing why they needed squires so much because there's so many like moving parts to it.
Yeah, yeah. You could then put on your cuirass, which is your breastplate and your back plate, and these are joined at your sides with leather strapping again, and leather strapping at the shoulders. So it enables you to kind of pull it in, and you want it as snug as you can.
Yeah,
So obviously then you've got less kind of area for things to slip and move, and hitting points and
yeah.
things. As I'm sure you're aware from watching House of the not House of the Dragon, Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah.
Obviously, wearing someone else's armor didn't end well. So
No.
you always want to make sure that it's fitting as well as you possibly can do. Your van brace would come on next, so that would tie it at the top with your thonging, and you have leather straps all the way down. And then your pauldrons or your spolders would sit over the top. So spolders tend to be just a kind of standard covering. A pauldron would cover kind of a bit more of your front and your back,
Yeah.
and provide a bit more protection. And then you've got things like your bever or your gorget, which covers your neck, and then whichever helmet and gauntlets that you might want to do, it depending on what kind of suit it is after then. So it's a very, very brief outline, but those
Yeah.
are the kind of main pieces that we would make for a full suit.
How long would it take to dress somebody in the full suit approximately?
Well, I can tell you that because I've dressed many people in a suit, and I'm only 5'1", so I find it quite difficult when most of the chaps that I'm dressing are like 6 foot plus, and I'm like, "Can you bend down a bit, please? Can you help?" So it can take up to an hour for
Really?
for fitting and dressing, because obviously each leather strap you want to fit perfectly for that person. So you're adding extra holes, you're tightening up the thonging, you're ensuring that it's sitting correctly before they start moving about. Because obviously if you haven't done things up correctly, if they start moving, your shoulder might be over here, or, and
Yeah.
it just doesn't look as good. So yeah, you just want to make sure that everything is kind of fitted as well as you possibly can.
When you make something for like a production or for a person individually, is everything made to for the actor or performer or whatever? Is it made specifically for their size?
Sometimes it is. I don't know if you've seen any of the kind of behind the scenes of the latest House of the Dragon with
Yeah.
Simon Bristol. So we did have a very small part to play in terms of 3D printing the actor. So that's what they wanted to do, and they then molded their armor to his frame. So that's
For Eamon.
yes, yeah. So that's
I saw
why
that video.
yeah, and obviously that's how he was able to move so freely, because it was specifically designed for him. Now it was there was a lot of intricate detail on that, so they had to make sure that it fitted correctly. A lot of the time, because our base shapes are of I would say like an average size, you can
Yeah.
cinch them in, or you can let them out. We can add panels and things like that. So a lot of the time our stock sizes are fine for most actors, depending on, obviously if they're huge or tiny, you might
Yeah.
have to reassess. But most of the time, actually, the armor is okay in terms of size wise for most people.
That so in terms of like specifically like House of the Dragon and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, could you just tell me some of the pieces of armor that you guys have worked on?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things for us for House of the Dragon was the Hightower armor. that is in essence our base shapes. So
Yeah.
those are our base shapes, and then obviously detail has been added to those as well. I can't remember the exact numbers, but there was a hell of a lot of multiples that we did for those. And every single flame was hand painted.
Really?
Yeah. Me and Natalie, who used to work here, bless her, we literally hand painted everything. I'm so sorry, the phone's ringing. I thought I'd turn that off. So yeah, all of that was hand painted. We alongside that, so obviously I said that we do offer just a casting service as well.
Yeah.
So from Simon's molds, they would send across and tell us how many they would need. We can then also paint and finish, but some of them would go straight back to them if they were hero suits, because I think when it comes to finishing, I think that's where communication needs to be really direct, because you obviously need to make sure that you're enabling that finish that they have in their minds.
Yeah.
With Simon, he's absolutely fantastic to work with, and he will have some of it back and he'll have his team paint it. Some of it we will paint. So it's a really nice balance between the two, really. So obviously James Norton's new character, obviously his character coming in this season, his was just a cast. So we cast it all out, linished it all, finished it all off, and then it was sent to them for assembly. So I'm guessing they assembled it to him. So that's where they would have been able to kind of, even though the sizes were probably similar, they would have made it more bespoke for his body when they got it back, basically. We did lots of other spraying bits for the latest season. We've done obviously each season of House of the Dragon. Hightower, I would say, is we're very proud of, because
It is beautiful. It's so beautiful on, like, when you see it with the towers and everything, it's just amazing.
Yeah, and it's really nice as well. So that's actually an example of a different finish that we use. So those pieces of armor were actually vacuum metallized, which is why they are of a higher shine.
Was that deliberate to make it? Because it fits his character as well, because he's like this arrogant lord. It fits him to have them all.
So there's lots of different ways we can do it. We still patinate it at the end, because obviously you don't want it to be blingy. But yeah, so that was, I mean, House of the Dragon is always going to be amazing to work on. You know, there's so many nuances, even down to little tiny pieces that they'll send us to hand mold and cast. You know, it's just an incredible thing to be involved in. And A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, for me, has probably been my favorite. It's literally been the most amazing project to work on.
I love A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms so much.
Honestly, it's the most heartwarming Game of Thrones, isn't it? Like, I feel like it's easy watching. You can kind of keep up with it. And for me as well, obviously season 2 is going to be slightly different in terms of, for us, kind of armor levels. I know that it's not giving too much away, but obviously it's not going to be on the same premise as season 1. But for us, season 1, seeing so much of our armor on screen shot in such a beautiful manner was incredible. Really
But did
cool.
you make, for A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, what sort of armor did you mold make for that? Obviously, I know you guys did the Fossoway armor, which is stunning, and I love it so much. But what else did you do?
So primarily, again, for us, it was providing at the very start of the project. We're lucky productions such as A Knight of Seven Kingdoms, they will come to us and say, okay, we're looking for this style of helmet, what have you got? And then we can provide them with kind of shapes that we have and things like that. They might have them for a few weeks and take inspiration. They might look at different things. I mean, Dunk's helmet was we've cast quite a few of Dunk's helmet, and obviously his gorgeous and everything. Cool. He needed quite a few. He had a few spares, bless him. But like, obviously they sent us that to cast, but it's so lovely to see the different styles of armor that they actually included. You know, they really spent so much time thinking about what those characters needed to look like. And I mean, Baratheon, I mean, anyone that doesn't like Baratheon, yeah, can't be friends. But again, we sent over our Maximilian Gothic Pauldron and Van Brace,
Um,
and then obviously they were repainted for his character. So those are our base shapes. They're our molds. They're what we have to hire out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but obviously just that simple color change gives it that whole other look
Yeah,
and feel. And then obviously he's got all the soft costume, his wonderful helmet. Unfortunately, we didn't have much of an input into the rest of his armor, but
yeah,
in terms of just that simple, just goes to show it doesn't have to be much, but it can really change a character.
yeah.
Um, we sprayed out a hell of a lot of the other jousting armor. So a lot of that would have been a spray and send. We also hired out some, I don't know if you remember the scenes where they are watching the production and
Yeah, yeah.
there's the helmet and the breastplate and it's hand painted.
What,
So
the Tansel puppet show?
yes, yes, yeah. So so those are ours. We've got them here, sat here. They hand
That's so
painted them, so it
cool.
came back 10 times better than we sent it off. So it's that kind of contribution that's amazing for us to see.
So
Um,
would you say A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is your personal favorite project that you and the team have
yeah,
worked on?
yeah, and we've been so lucky to work on season 2 as well. So it's exciting for us because we know what some of it's going to look like. There's a lot less armor, but we know some of the specific pieces that you won't have seen in season 1
Yeah.
that will be coming. So yeah, I'm excited to see that on screen next year. It'll be really cool.
That, and are a lot of you guys fans of shows and books and things like A Night of the Seven Kingdoms and Game of Thrones? So I bet that's quite exciting.
Yeah.
Like having read the books, you visualize it in your head, and then you actually get to be part of what brings it to life, which is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really nice for us as well. I mean, obviously, we can't take credit for the amazing designs and things like that, other than like the contribution that we had for the Apple armor and things like that.
Yeah,
But for us, it's so nice to have seen how well received all the armor was.
yeah.
So even like the King's Guard armor, so that's obviously come back to us.
Loved the
We've
King's
got that
Guard armor.
here. Again, that was some of our base shapes, and then just a simple adding of detail or color changing. So again, like they've got that vision and they can see our armor in another way, and I think that's a really great thing for us to see because
Yeah,
we can't just simply create that style of armor just to sit here just in case someone might want to hire it. So for us it's really cool to see other people's input in what they think our armor could look like for production.
yeah.
I mean the Apple armor was a whole other ball game. And I did source out some of the pieces, so I don't know whether you've obviously I briefly spoke to you before about it, but everything
Oh,
was hand cast.
yeah.
So this was kind of reference.
Wow, really?
And then
That's so cool.
I can't lift it up. And then these were all hand created.
Wow.
So this is all in clay. And even the twigs. So this is Fossoway's hero. This is the one. This is the actual one. So I don't know if I'm showing it all right on camera, but you
Yeah,
can see
it shows really well.
you can see all of the twigs on here. They were
Wow.
literally molded from twigs outside our office.
Really? That's so
Yeah.
cool.
And then obviously hand painting on a lot of the detailing. You can see how intricate the leaves are. And obviously that's all over the suit as well. So this is our so this is one of his pauldrons. So you can see how large it is. It's a big pauldron. And this started its life as our base shape for our leaf suit. So if anybody wants to go onto our website, you'll see our leaf suit on there. It's a very intricate style, but this pauldron style was kind of inspiration from proper medieval armor. It would have been
Wow.
cast in metal, and then obviously we have made some tweaks and changes and added all of this amazing detail and created the molds from that to cast it from.
It is so detailed, like you can see with the leaves and the branches and stuff. It's just
Yeah.
And you were saying that it's inspired like with historical armor. I'd love to hear. We'll do the Fossoway armor now because we're talking about it. But I would love to hear about the design and execution of that armor specifically, and how it came about because I know that one was a big one that you guys were involved in.
Yeah, so again, like I say, we were going backwards and forwards with the costume department, and they kind of gave us a bit of an idea of how they wanted him to look, the story behind why he has to look like that. It needs to look historical, but obviously you have a bit more kind of artistic license to
Yeah,
that. And so originally, his pauldrons were actually going to be our Milanese pauldrons, so a lot flatter, a lot more like an arrow shape across
yeah,
the chest. But because the cuirass that was chosen, it looked okay, but it didn't give off that kind of, he's a baddie at the end of the day.
yeah,
He needed to look like he thinks he's great, and the more bulbous his kind of shoulders were,
yeah,
the kind of higher he could sit, the better, really. So in terms of base shapes, they are very, true to what I would call a historical style of medieval armor. They are very similar to a pauldron you could see on many original suits, but they've just been pimped a lot.
that's
So,
so cool though. How the character inspired the armor because that's just so clever.
yeah, and I think they, with the colouring that they chose as well, was just perfect.
Yeah,
I think you would never think, oh, okay, well, he's got to have apples and he's got to be a bit of a baddie. You wouldn't go, oh, do you know what? I'll make it copper. You
yeah,
wouldn't, you wouldn't, well, I wouldn't anyway, just automatically think that. You think, for me, I'd go, right, well, he needs like a gnarly, like
yeah,
gunmetal or like something very kind of, which probably would have looked cool, but quite boring, probably.
yeah.
And I think that's it. He needed to have that standout moment. And I think for us, we were very lucky that that penny drops. For anybody
Yeah,
that doesn't know the story, that penny drops, and you kind of go, "Oh yeah, I don't like him now. Go away."
where it's in the Trial of Seven, as soon as you see it, you're like, makes sense. That
Yeah,
makes sense now.
yeah, yeah. And obviously how they reflected it in the soft costume as well. So
Yeah,
you see the early scenes where he's like practicing and things. He's got
yeah.
the apple tabard and things like that. So I think it's really nice. There's such a continuation, and yeah, it was a real kind of pinch me moment for us to be able to be involved with that. It was great.
That is just so cool, and it's so intricate and it's so beautiful and it's so detailed. I was wondering, with this level of detail and planning and design and execution, how long does that take from when you get the idea and the concept to when it's finished?
Yeah, I think just for example, the apple armor, I think it was probably a good 3 to 4 months.
Yeah,
Because once the apples had been, all the different sizes and shapes, we'd basically done as many as we could kind of try and do.
yeah,
And then we were placing, I think I sent some pictures to you where you
yeah,
can see our kind of raw material, and we're placing them on, and you'll see the lines where they've drawn and gone, nope, that needs to go there. And it is down to that such fine detail of a position of one leaf, that obviously it's that going backwards and forwards and just making those tweaks and changing out the pauldrons. And okay, he needs to have leaves on his helmet, he
yeah.
needs to have a different gorget. It's that kind of thing that goes backwards and forwards,
Labor
for
of
a
love.
while. Yeah. Yeah, but it's good fun. It's good fun.
Yeah. So for we've touched on this a little bit, but for things like Night of the Seven Kingdoms, House of the Dragon, but also I know you guys have worked on things like Odyssey, The Spanish Princess, things like that.
Yeah.
How do real historical armor and like just historical armor design, how does that impact on fantasy design? And to what extent does the real history inspire the armor for this sort of show?
Yeah, I think it's a very That's a very great question, but also a very open question. I
Yeah,
think
for
when it
sure.
comes to how things are designed these days, I mean, you only have to look at the stuff that we've done with Rings of Power.
Yeah,
Um, you know, that's fantasy. Could you say some bits are taken from historical armor? Potentially. Base shapes. If you just look at base shapes of a cuirass, a standard base shape of a cuirass
yeah,
inspiration would have come from something historical. However, that obviously is so much to the extreme that the pieces themselves might be the same. You might have a pauldron, but it's going to look a million times different.
yeah,
The good thing with like House of the Dragon and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, obviously it is fantasy, but it is that bit closer
yeah,
to,
for sure.
yeah, it's not such a big step.
Yeah,
And I think especially, like, I'll harp on about Simon, but Simon Brindle is fantastic at bridging that gap between you knowing that this is not a historical story, you
yeah,
know that there's going to be a dragon in it and it's not real, but you also look at it and go, oh, well, that could be, you know, if I saw that
yeah,
in a
for sure.
museum,
And it
could
makes
that
it
be
so
real?
much more immersive as well because you're watching
100%.
as with House of the Dragon in season one, you know, when
Yeah,
they had the first episode, they had the turning of the hand. You
yeah,
just see the armor and you're like, do you know what? This is what I imagined it was
yeah.
like in like Henry VIII's reign or whatever.
100%. I was just about to say, I mean, you only have to look at someone like Henry VIII and his
Yeah,
ridiculous armor that you just think, well, yeah, they would have all that design on there. They would have it in a completely different color. They would,
yeah.
you know, it's not just going to be standard steel with some tassets on and
It's
a
like an extension of their personality. Like, even in the
100,
sense we were talking about the Fossoway armor, like they all wanted to present a certain image in their armor,
yeah,
which is something that comes across really well in like the Ormond Hightower armor as
yeah,
well. Like it just shows who he is.
yeah, definitely. And I think that's it. It's important for storytelling. And, you know, I think armor, obviously I deal with armor every day, but I forget it's a very niche subject.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so in the world of productions, you know, we've been lucky to work with people who really do know it and they really do get it. And
Yeah,
they're not, but you know, they have that foresight and that vision to engage with the audience and get them to see this could be real. Like this
yeah,
could be real. This could be. We know it's not, but it could be. And I think that's where that fine line, and especially with those two productions, really, really helps
yeah.
to tell the story, really.
And I think that leads very, very nicely to talking about the high tower armor in more detail. Because when I initially emailed you guys, I was saying, because I'd seen that you guys had worked on that armor and it was just so incredible, so detailed. Would you tell us through like how this armor was made, how the concept came, how it was designed, and could you take us through if there's any details that you know that we might not have noticed on screen?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm hoping you might have seen a lot of the details, but there is obviously you'll have noticed the kind of intricate detailing on the
Yeah,
helmets around the pauldrons and bits and pieces like that. And again, that's where it comes to our patinating. So these were all vacuum metallized and then patinated. So I sent you a little short clip of me and
yeah,
Natalie patinating the helmet, and you're there for ages, dabbing, 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 dabbing. And then you have to make sure that the detailing has more relief to it. So you're
yeah,
obviously leaving more of the product on those detailing, and kind of, yeah, it's that finishing process that I think you wouldn't expect.
yeah,
You would expect it to just be, oh, okay, well, it's just painted silver and then it's, you know, it's
yeah,
done kind of thing. But it's those kind of details that we really, whether you notice it or not, the good thing is if you don't notice it, it means it's working.
yeah,
Um, just to see the kind of relief, and we do a lot of kind of cutting back on things. So that you get those high points. So you get high points of reflection on the
yeah,
pieces. So you might not notice, but like on the top of the helmet, along the rim of the helmet, on the detailing, along the edges, everything is knocked back so that it is shinier,
yeah,
so that when it's being worn, whichever way they're turning and things like that, and that's on all of the pieces, it's giving off those reflections as normal metal would. So yeah, that's always really a great thing to do, because you finish it and you go, oh yeah, it looks like armor again now. Like it looks it's not just covered in black and swirly bits. It's like it looks like the armor. But again, similar to when we did the Apple armor for Fossoway, we were speaking backwards and forwards with the production. They provide us with some beautiful kind of imagery that they think they want to go down. So you'll notice in the Hightower, like some people will have not full armor because they don't have upper legs, but they'll have the greaves and the full top armor. Some will just have pauldrons and maybe just touches of it with more soft costume. So they will send us all of that so that we can kind of get an idea of what they want it to look like. And then again, we actually provided them with some of our based on historical base shapes, if you will. So that kind of the way that the cuirass sits. And then they were happy with a lot of the bits that we'd put together, and came back to us with making sure that we could put the flames on there and things like that. And then it all came together. It was great. It's really, really good. We're very proud of that suit.
And is it, do you know, when these trailers and things come out, do you guys get to see them before they get released to the public, or do you see it as really?
Yeah, we don't even get mentioned in the credits. So
really?
Yeah. So I think in our industry, we're a supplier. At the end of the day, we're a supplier. So I think that's where, unfortunately, we don't always get our name there, but it's fine. We know we worked on it, and it's very exciting for us to just be involved. So we have to wait like everyone else. And then when it comes home, Jared, our manager, who's actually my soon-to-be husband, we sit down and he'll go, right, and he'll put YouTube on and we'll see the trailer and we'll watch it together and we'll go to each other and go, hey, go, look at that.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, we get on so far. We haven't fallen out yet.
I think that it's really interesting that, like, as well as fantasy shows and a lot of unique movies like The Odyssey and things, you've also worked on things like The Spanish Princess.
Yes.
So one of the pieces of armor that I was fascinated by that you guys have worked on is the pregnancy armor from Spanish Princess. So I will put a picture here somewhere. So the armor has such a unique design. And I imagine like designing and making the armor specifically for a pregnant woman was probably quite uniquely challenging in design and in execution. So I would love to hear more about that armor, what it was based on historically and how you executed it.
Well, to be totally honest, it wasn't based on anything historical, because as you can appreciate, there's not a hell of a lot of reference images for things like that.
Pregnant women,
but what we did do, we were lucky enough, and I've actually brought the so this is the metal master of her helmet. So hopefully you'll recognise that one. So we were sent, I don't know whether you will have seen reference images, but she wears a very tight-fitting gold set. So we were sent the metal masters of that set, with a kind of brief to make something that had a pregnancy belly. Obviously was true to her styling. And you'll notice, if you put those side by side, you'll notice that the top of that breastplate and the pregnancy breastplate are exactly the same. So John, when he was given that, he was then able to, so he stole that kind of top section so that it would be indicative of her. It fitted her correctly. And back then, pregnancy armor, again, not going to pass comment on that, but with a lot of armor, they would have added plates on, they would have added sections on, they wouldn't have always just been like, right, you can have a whole brand new one. If something was damaged, they'd cut it off and add more, or they would like do it the same style but add something different. So we kind of use that premise to make the rest of it. So her pregnancy belly, you'll notice it's got like lattice work on it.
Yeah.
So as you can appreciate, when it's a completely smooth belly, that's not going to be strong enough to deflect anything.
Yeah,
It's not going to be rigid enough. Yes, a lot of medieval men's armour would have been bulbous on the belly, but it would not have been out that far.
yeah,
So the lattice work there is to show that there's kind of almost extra protection around her stomach area, but keeping that original style of her armour. The rest of her armour actually is based on kind of an early Maximilian style Gothic. You'll notice the fluting, and she's got quite a large section on the cuta on her elbows, and also her legs are very much our kind of Gothic style. Everything tweaked much smaller. She was absolutely tiny, like the waist on the gold one is, I'm not joking about this, it's
really
so small. So it had to all make sure that it fitted her perfectly. And the armour that she actually wears with the pregnancy armour is actually based off, so we had a mould of a metal master. We were racking our brains this morning to think where it was actually from, and we can't remember whether it was actually moulded from a proper historical one, or whether it was a metal version that we had acquired. But yeah, and again, it's so small, like it just about fits my head, won't fit on any of the lads, like it's teeny. She was absolutely tiny. So it was definitely a kind of mold of all different types. Again, you're kind of putting things together that maybe shouldn't go, but it works. And again, being two-tone as well, you've got that glimmer of the gold from her previous suit, but then it's steel. You want it to be more ready for battle than just like a showing off piece of armor. So yeah, that's kind of how it started. We actually do have it. I don't have it with me, unfortunately, but we do have it here, and it's the amazing suit. But yeah, so small,
so unique.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we put it this way: we haven't had anyone else try it on.
Is it different when you do armor for men versus women? Does it have different pieces, or is the design any different?
To be honest, because our speciality is kind of medieval. That's what we are good at. That's what we like. We love fantasy, and we can do it. But obviously, with our hire kit, a lot of it is medieval. And so we've been really lucky. We worked with a lady called Paulina last year. And we put her into a full suit. Now, everything other than her cuirass, which was Maximilian style, kind of very nipped in waist, fixed tassets, that kind of thing. Other than her cuirass, everything else was our standard legs and arms.
Wow, yeah.
So it just goes to show how much we can kind of bring them in. Yeah, exactly. I mean, my goal will be to create a lot more female armor. I would love to have the right size, everything that would fit a female body straight away, and also not to be overly feminine. I think we've seen a lot, and especially in fantasy, but I think we've seen a lot of overly feminine. I mean, it's got a big chest on it. And I think it would be nice to have something, not necessarily, a man's version, but for a woman. But I mean, it's gone completely out of my head now. But the female in Rings of Power, her suit is lovely because it's got a waist, and you can tell it's a female, but it's not overly big. And I think I'd like to do some more medieval stuff that is appropriate for a female form.
And is that would you say that's one of your like big goals for the future?
Yeah, I think for me, especially going back to kind of the higher side of our business, we're very lucky that we work with musicians, lots of adverts, theatre productions. I think you went to see, I can never pronounce it correctly, Osteria?
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah, so On my TikTok, somebody corrected me about 5 times, and I still can't fully pronounce it. But I think it's Oristria. Think.
Aristria, there we go. I've only ever seen it written down by email, so
Did you do the armor?
yeah.
The no way! I didn't even
Yeah, so
know
it's
that.
things like that. Like, you wouldn't know that the stuff's come from us.
Now I'm
Um,
going to see that again on closing day, and now at the end, I'm going to be like, I'm going with my friend, and we're like, I know who made the armor.
yeah, no, we're very lucky that we get to do. We work with the Globe quite a lot as well.
Ah, right,
We've
that's
also
cool.
recently worked with the Royal Shakespeare Company on The Mad King.
To
Um,
see that as well. I'm going to see that in a couple of
Are
weeks.
you?
Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah, so we're really hoping it obviously gets its second run next year, because then the armour will be even more
yeah,
stepped up. They've done a mixture of armour from us and some foam armour. So not giving anything away, but there's like a mixture. Whereas hopefully next year
amazing.
there'll be
That.
even more bespoke armour
Yeah,
available to them. But yeah, it's supposed to be really good. So hopefully you have a
yeah,
great time.
yeah,
But yeah, that's the thing. We're involved with so many things. We're very lucky. But it is, again, it's finding stuff from our kit that
yeah,
works. And yeah, I've been very lucky to work with a lot of the designers
yeah.
to create these looks.
Thank you so much for giving me so much of your time. I cannot wait to publish this. People are going to love it. And you're just
Oh,
an amazing speaker, and I've really enjoyed it.
oh,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
Yeah,
you. No, it's been great. It's lovely. It's really nice for us to be able to kind of
yeah,
say what we actually do rather
yeah.
than just show a picture now and again.
I will stop